So NASA finally did it. Okay. Launching Artemis 2, a mission that lasts 10 days going around the moon. And we've got to talk about it, deep divers, because this is exciting, fascinating, and also eye-opening, because there are things they're not telling you about Artemis 2, which I'm going to show you, and we're going to dive deep. Look, deep divers, question everything. Question everything. And this whole operation, deep divers, was really, really expensive. We're talking about over 107 billion. That's right, $107 billion. Now, deep divers, let me tell you this. I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm really skeptical about everything NASA says. Now, the reason why is because the first moon landing, there were a lot of strange things happening there. Did we even go to the moon? Can we even go to the moon? Question everything. Now, don't get it twisted. This rocket launching Artemis 2 was really, really cool. But I always have to question everything NASA says, because the truth is, every single image you see of planet Earth from NASA has been photoshopped. That's not me saying it, it's a fact. We don't even know what the Earth looks like. Now, some people go so far as to say space isn't real, Ralph. It's just a firmament. They even say it in the Bible. I do believe that none of us know where we are. Have you gone and explored for yourself? Until you do that, you don't know. It's all speculation. We just have to trust NASA, right? But I can say that it is cool. Very cool. But there's also something that you have to pay attention to. So it's pretty exciting stuff, deep divers, right? Just seeing the launch was pretty spectacular. Now, things they're not telling you. So in 1945, deep divers, you had this German American aerospace engineer and scientist, rocket scientist, and NASA actually called him the greatest rocket scientist of our time, Warner von Braun, right? And Operation Paperclip 1945, he was really building rockets for the Nazi Party in Germany. And 1945, he surrendered, came to America, Operation Paperclip, and he was actually a director of NASA in the Kennedy Center. Okay, now, when he died, deep divers, on his grave, he died in 1977. He said this, Psalms 19, right? 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Why would he put that on his tombstone, right? Very strange. So that's why some people are saying actually he knew that we're in a firmament, right? And that's the reason why people say actually we've never seen a round globe, and actually there's a dome above us called the firmament, and that's even in the Bible. So I always say question everything, deep divers. Always take everything you're being told by NASA with a pinch of salt, preferably sea salt.
If they were finding some documents about the firmament back, a few years ago, what if we can find some more? And sure enough, there are many more documents about the firmament out there. And I wanted to share a few of them. Now, as I was going through these documents, you always find weird stuff. I didn't sit there and read real slowly. I kind of skimmed through them, so you may find more things than I did if you start looking. But these are all searchable. I'll show you. I'll leave a link in the description of the website you can search for this stuff in. A lot of this stuff is searchable. Here's some of the declassified CIA documents that were shared in the past, one of them being about the shape of the Earth not being known. And this was by Russia, who was ahead of us, if most of you didn't know that, in the fake space race back in the day and leading up to the moon missions that we pretended to go on. They were ahead of us. And now I found it weird that they did not know the shape of the Earth back in 49 when they were allegedly sending people into orbit and doing things right after that. I know a lot of you thought that was strange as well, but just to summarize some of the things they were saying in those declassified documents about the firmament, we looked at things where they were testing the brightness of the firmament and the daytime sky and measuring these things, as well as looking at the brightness along the certain parts of the sun and 5 to 6 points of the firmament located at various zenith distances. So they are looking at the distances of the firmament from the sun. Thought that was kind of cool that they are trying to figure this stuff out way back when. And they're talking about the assumptions of this right here that we can't say without getting our videos censored or having that Wikipedia article show up underneath them that gives a bunch of lies. It'll probably show up down there anyways, since I mentioned the firmament. But if you talk about this and this, based on these assumptions of a Earth that is not spherical, and talking about the firmament in the same document, very interesting that they are doing that and deriving formulas from this. Those of you who believe in the globe, that's okay. Just know that the people who are doing formulas for space travel and experiments were looking into those assumptions and saying they have to assume that, because otherwise they would be completely off with their calculations. Now, here's some more of the documents I found that I thought were cool, and I would like to see more about them. Not that I will. I know the firmament's going to roll away pretty soon, and we're going to see greater things than that. But the second day of creation, this firmament, this great expanse, was made. Stars placed inside of it. And the document here was talking about this equipment, a camera, that was able to capture or photograph the entire firmament down to the horizon. They were using a convex aluminum mirror to reflect the sky. So very cool that they were trying to capture the entire firmament down to the horizon and publishing these works. Maybe more people knew about it than we thought back then. So lots of experiments regarding that. Also seen some about the temperatures of the firmament with really high numbers given. Very high. And this is something that talks about the color temperatures of the firmament and how they would amount to 6100 to 1750 Kelvin. That's cool. It's probably why when people were trying to send men in the Air Force up really high back in the day, a lot of them, or one of them, I heard back in the when they were sending them up in balloons, not rockets, the guy came back to Earth and had a fever of 108 degrees. This guy was experiencing something that sent him straight back to Earth. He aborted that mission because he started getting too hot. Could be because of things like this. I know it does get cold at certain points. It's weird. Heat rises, but once you get higher, it gets colder. I know that's just one of those weird things with the science of it all. But it says here that the visual observations of glows, well as the analysis of photographs, showed that the radar echoes also appeared at instance of absence of visible signs of glows in the angle of aperture of the directivity pattern of the radar antenna. Nevertheless, at this instant the glows were observed in another section of the firmament. As a rule, the echoes did not appear when visible forms of glow were absent on the firmament. So they're studying some properties of the firmament that we weren't taught about in school. How there are times that certain things echo when these glows are present. That's extremely fascinating. The complexities of this firmament, the movements above, how they can even affect things like the Foucault pendulum and change how fast these things rotate when they're in their set patterns due to their ring magnets and all the things that they put on them to keep them in motion and the electric pulses and whatnot. These things are affected by the firmament. Really cool, and they were studying that and these radio echoes back then in relation to different glows, to the aurora lights, all of those things they were studying. But they were looking at the firmament, knowing it's there. Here's some more where they were capturing the whole firmament and using different technology to do this, different instruments. These people were figuring out a lot and doing a lot of the things we're doing now and then some, because they were operating with the wisdom of the fallen, given that the CIA has been satanic at its roots since the beginning. It's not one of those things that's for our own good. They make it seem that way in Hollywood movies, and that's part of their plan. If you've seen the documentary Out of Shadows, you'll see what I'm talking about, you know, Mockingbird and a lot of the things that went on. Now, here's one that really, really fascinated me, because the title of one of the segments in this article is called The Shape of the Firmament. And if you look down, it looks like Wide Awake wrote this book here. Talks about rings around the sun and the moon, pseudo-suns, pillars, twinklings of stars, rainbows, refraction, distortion of the sun's and moon's disks at the horizon. Weird that they call them disks, kind of like they did like in Enoch. And it says all sorts of different things, you know, the sound audibility of thunder, that echoing off the firmament. Really cool that they were writing this stuff in books. And I tried to locate this book. You can find some of the ebooks that if you look up these titles, and I'm not sure if I found it or one that contains parts of it, but I'll leave this presentation linked in the description so you can sort through what I'm seeing. I have the links on a lot of these slides where you can just go right back to the document. If not, you can go to that website and just type in some of these little titles here and it'll pull it up. This is nothing really to spend a whole lot of time looking into. I just got bored the other night and pulled an all-nighter just reading through some of these things because I was a little obsessed with finding stuff. Trying to find photos is really what I was wanting to do, but I just kept finding these documents and really low quality pictures. A lot of them are scanned in, almost like they've been sent through one of those old-timey fax machines. But this one here is another one where it says the increasing the number of panels and completing the circle, the entire firmament could be covered. And this one says the Eros firmament, the passage of the sun is almost 5 times quicker. So the sun's moving faster. They didn't say the earth moves faster at this one place. They said the sun is 5 times quicker. Day passes immediately over into night. The contrast between light and shadow are as pronounced as on the moon. I don't know what the Eros firmament is. I looked into it and found out the word Eros is like those ancient Greek and Rome, you know, backgrounds with the Greek god of love identified by Romans with Cupid or a winged figure. You guys have seen pictures. That's very interesting that they called it at the Eros firmament. The passage of the sun is almost 5 times quicker. Lots of different things there that get your wheels turning. And here's another one yet again of the photos they were taking of the firmament using different technologies. You can kind of read about them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those. Really cool stuff. And there's a chart I came across that was talking about the distances of the sun. I really wanted to see what they were saying because I know it's probably not what we're taught. But the chart, again, it did not print properly. It'd be cool to locate some of this stuff. And they were looking at the sky brightness. I don't know why that was such a big deal to them, but it was. And they were mapping all this stuff out, doing things that it's not public knowledge today.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
Everyone thinks that I have it should tumble, if I should fall, would anyone hear me screaming behind these castle walls? There's no one here at all behind these castle walls. If I should tumble, if I should fall, would anyone hear me screaming behind these castle walls? There's no one here at all behind these castle walls. These castle walls. And these castle walls. If I should tumble, if I should fall, would anyone hear me screaming behind these castle walls? There's no one here at all. Everyone thinks that I have it all, but it's so empty, living behind these castle walls. These castle walls. If I should tumble, if I should fall, would anyone hear me screaming behind these castle walls? There's no one here at all behind these castle walls.
The stars, our only hope. Human action resounds in the heavens. The bell echoes above. What we decide here today will polish or crack the firmament. What shall it be? Human action resounds in the heavens. The bell echoes above. What we decide here today will polish or crack the firmament. What shall it be?